Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Get candle in Parappa Palace, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society gets the candle with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. Right before we started recording, I was regaling you with some camp songs.
Now, okay.
Against your will.
Yeah, and then I said no more camp songs.
And yet, here
and now
I am.
you're bringing
I'm going to talk
up.
about it.
Okay.
Yep. But I'm not going to talk about camp songs. It made me wonder, because I never did, like, traditional summer camp.
Sure.
Right? Like, I never did, like, a sleepaway camp.
Right.
I briefly did Boy Scouts when I was young, and at that point I did, like maybe, 4 or 5 days of camping or something. Did you ever do like a sleepaway camp, summer camp?
No.
Yeah.
No, not really. So like the whole concept of a camp song, like I'm familiar with the idea, and also like it's kind of just like an evolution of like a playground song. Right, like a Jingle Bells, Batman Smells. Like it's
sure,
it's kind of like the same
It's
sort of thing.
institutionalized.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, do you well, do you know what? It doesn't matter. I was gonna ask.
Right. Joker got away.
Has anybody ever traced the origin of that?
Oh, I don't. I think it is one of those untraceable things that like. And we're not going to look it up right now.
No.
And frankly, if you're listening to this show and you're like, I know the origin of this, I'm going to let these guys know. Don't.
No. What? No.
I don't want to know.
Opposite.
Mark wants to know.
I want to know.
Okay, well, let Mark know.
Yeah,
I guess.
let me know.
I don't care. I like living in the mystery where it's like some kid saying it worked well and just got like passed around.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Yeah, live in that fiction.
I will live in that reality, sir. Reality is what we make it. So if you have the actual reality, I guess you can write into us, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Or if you'd like to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society, where if you are supporting us at the 8-bit or 16-bit levels, you get access to our once-a-month episodes of miniseries like NCS Arcade.
And in NCS Arcade, Patrick and I are playing games that we've never beaten before, parentheses for the most part. And for the month of May, we are going to be playing and talking about the Game Boy Advance game Wario Land 4.
Yes, a strange little game, I gotta say. As I've been playing it, I'm like, this game is weird.
Yeah, it is weird, and it will be fun to talk about.
Yes. Our most recent episode is about Okami, the PlayStation 2, and then Wii, and then, we're playing it on Switch, the HD version. Capcom Zelda-like classic, where you play as a wolf. So that episode is available now. We will be recording a listener feedback episode next week. So if you have any thoughts or experiences or complaints or questions about Okami, write to us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And we'll use that, Mark, in an episode that who can listen to?
Everybody. That's right. You just need to go to our Patreon. And if you're following us at any level, including the free level, you'll have access to these listener feedback episodes.
Right. So that means everyone can email us. Everyone can listen to the episode where we read the emails. What else? Use that email. You can request an invitation to the Discord. Come on into the Discord and chat with other like-minded folks about Nintendo and all the exciting stuff that's coming up.
Try out Pikmin Bloom. We really are growing a little Pikmin Bloom community there, which is fun.
We really are, and it's amazing how like quickly it's. I mean, we've been doing it for a while, but it's nice that it's like gotten a lot bigger in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of new people are seeing the light of Pikmin Bloom. And then also, Mark, we are approaching our 866th episode.
Yes, that's right. And for our 866th episode, we are going to do an entire episode of questions submitted by you.
Yes. That are not about Nintendo.
Yes, because the reason we're doing this is because, every news episode we take a break in the show for 4 minutes and 33 seconds where we talk about something not Nintendo related. And for our 866th episode, we are going to do an entire episode full of 433s, basically.
Basically, yeah. And we're just going to read these questions and answer them. And is each one going to take 4 minutes and 33 seconds? I don't think so.
Yeah, we're not planning on that.
Some will take more. Some will take less.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. But we need questions from you. Thank you to everyone who has written in already. We've got a bunch of questions. Mark, I started compiling them into a single doc today. So it's going to be very exciting. I'm very much looking forward to the episode.
Yes, but we still need more.
We need more.
So send those in.
We always need more. We're insatiable. So send them in Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. I was slowing down because Mark was taking a drink of water. All right, Mark, let's get into our topic today. We're talking about why we're excited that the GameCube Classics library is coming to the Nintendo Switch to Nintendo Switch Online. One of the wordier premises that we've had. I can see you looking at me while I was trying to force my way through the end of that sentence. Yeah, so the one of the exciting innovations of the Nintendo Switch 2 is that as part of what's happening there, Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack or forever. Okay. We'll be getting access to GameCube games.
Yeah, this is one that on the one hand felt inevitable, but nothing is inevitable with Nintendo. And so until it was announced, I wasn't entirely sure that would be the case.
Yeah, well, and so we're going to talk about the reasons that we are excited for this. The prompt for each of us today was to bring 4 reasons we're excited and 1 reason we're not excited about it. I, of course, have too many, and we'll burn off some of them as we go, or maybe we'll have some repeats and it'll be okay. But I think just like kind of overall, the sort of like wide angle, I just want to ask you, are you excited about GameCube games coming to this thing?
I am excited for GameCube games, and I will save elaborating on that a little bit more just because I think my answers will reveal some of that. But let's revisit that question at the end in case there's anything left that hasn't been talked about in like our things. But generally speaking, yes, I am. I'm much more excited for the GameCube than I was for the Nintendo 64.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
I feel like the Nintendo 64 is a fun novelty, but
with a handful of games that are still bangers.
100%. But that I consider this Nintendo 64 to have a thin library.
Sure,
and
totally agree.
I don't think that that's true for the GameCube.
I will also just say that for myself, I am also excited for the GameCube to come to this thing. And I will give a little bit of like a preview as to why, for me personally, like it's a very personal experience I'm going to speak to here, that I have not included as like in my reasons to be excited. But it's that, GameCube comes out in 2001, right? You and I were talking, I think just on the last episode, about Game Boy Advance games and about how like, the Game Boy Advance has such a short lifespan, especially with like the DS sort of encroaching on that space. But also like it was just a time where I was getting checked out of games in general. I had a GameCube, but like wasn't really playing it that much. I was playing a lot more games on, my PlayStation 2. And this is like, I was going away to college, meeting people who had Xboxes, and like Halo LAN parties became like a thing. And just sort of like my tastes sort of changed during that period where I just was not plugged into the GameCube in the way that I feel like I've been plugged into basically every other Nintendo console. The Wii for me was like a homecoming back to Nintendo, which necessarily means that I was away during the GameCube era. And so like I really do like view it as a generation that was lost to me. Obviously played a handful of these games either at the time or later on Wii or since then. But I just like I've not really been immersed and like deep into the GameCube library.
Yeah.
So just as like an overall bird's eye view, I'm excited about playing a lot of things for the first time, in addition to revisiting a bunch of stuff. Okay, So where do we want to drop the reason we're not excited?
How about we do? How about we do 3 reasons we are
Sure.
excited?
3 excited,
Drop 1 reason we're not,
and then finish on a
finish
positive.
on a
Okay.
finish on a positive note.
Mark, I feel like I just talked a little bit, so why don't you kick us off?
Okay. Great. So I'm going to start with. I'm ready to give Mario Kart Double Dash another chance. And I know that this game has not been announced for
Right.
GameCube yet, but I'm just assuming yeah, that's not this exercise to guess which games will or won't go.
No.
So I'm just operating under the assumption that Double Dash will end up there someday. Mario Kart 64 was the first Mario Kart game that I ever played, and I loved Mario Kart 64. And then I played with my siblings. I put so much time into that game. And then eventually we got a GameCube. We didn't get one at launch. It was definitely a few years after it was out. But of course, one of the first games we got was Double Dash because we loved Mario Kart 64 so much. And there was something about Double Dash that it didn't connect with me the same way. Maybe it was because I was so into Mario Kart 64 that Double Dash just felt so different in a way that was alienating to me at the time. Having the 2 different drivers, the whole thing just felt slower to me, a little pokier.
Right.
And I liked the variety of racers, and I think that there are some great tracks in Double Dash, but it's just a game that in my mind is the lesser Mario Kart. And so now I would love for a chance to look at it again with fresh eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I am largely of the belief that the Mario Kart games, with maybe the exception of the Game Boy Advance one, just get better as they go. And I know that the sort of thought out there in the ether is that's largely true, except for Double Dash, which is a aberration high point. I've also just never connected to it in that same way. Again, partially because I wasn't playing that much GameCube when it was out, and by the time the DS comes out, I was playing Mario Kart DS, which is a great version of that game, and allows for really easy multiplayer and online and all that kind of stuff in a way that just the GameCube wasn't quite there yet. And we'll be able to play these the Double Dash. We'll be able to play online, which was never possible with the original release of the game. So I don't know. It's I'm also excited for Double Dash.
Well, especially because it became one of, even though it was the 3rd entry instead of the 2nd entry, it became one of Nintendo's weird sequel type things where they're hey, let's try something different. We're going to put 2 players, we're going to put 2 racers on a card, going to change the dynamics that way. And then they never went back to that ever again.
Right.
It's the Zelda 2 of Mario Kart games.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to see the when Nintendo encounters a dead end and they just go back. And yeah, Double Dash, the doubliness of Double Dash is certainly that. All right, a good first entry that is just a game, right? To just be I'm looking forward to playing this game.
Yeah.
Okay, I am going to go with a slightly more abstract concept. In that, finally, and I think this is the first time that the Nintendo Classics libraries are going to be reflective of this. This is finally a time where the upscaling that happens naturally for playing on Switch 2 is going to make sense for these things. It is arguably something that broke the experience of playing Nintendo 64 games, right? Where it's oh yeah, we increased the draw distance, so now this fog isn't here anymore, and it breaks the experience because they built the game with fog in mind, right? So much of the Nintendo 64 is and that library is done tremendous favors by playing it on a small CRT TV, right? When you see those games in high definition on your bright OLED screen or on your enormous TV, it looks silly. The GameCube games aren't going to look silly. They're genuinely being held back by the displays available to them at the time, and we no longer have that restriction. I think playing GameCube games is going to feel like a refresh on these things, even though they're not being remastered or whatever. Nintendo's talking about improved frame rates and resolution and all this kind of stuff. And I think this is the first time it makes sense. and is like a real benefit.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think you're totally right. Like, even just seeing the little bit of work, well, I guess I can't speak to how much work they did, but the work that they did
It was a very small amount
Super
of work.
Mario Sunshine
Yes.
as part of like 3D All-Stars, and that game benefited from that so much as well. I feel like that it is going to be really exciting to see how GameCube games look. Not part of the exercise we're doing right now, but thank goodness for on Switch 2, the Nintendo 64 library will have a CRT filter finally added to it, because I think you're right. I really dislike playing Nintendo 64 games on the Switch.
It just doesn't look right.
It looks horrible,
right,
most of the time.
And also, like, the Nintendo 64 is like a notoriously hard to emulate console. This is not going to be hard to emulate. I just feel like some of these games have widescreen support. Which, look, I know Jet Force Gemini had widescreen support on the Nintendo 64, but even that was kind of busted. Like, it got patched in to like fix it. But so there will be a handful of these games that will be able to play in widescreen because that was a feature that like they intended to use. So I just think that like the sort of technical possibilities here are like new and novel and fun, and it's just so like it's such like a feature that like Xbox has been doing forever now with their backwards compatibility of just like everything gets like a performance boost and like better resolution and better frame rates and all this kind of stuff. And this is again just like the first time that Nintendo is reaching back to a generation where it makes sense for them to be making those improvements.
So I'm glad you brought up Xbox backwards compatibility, because that kind of is related to my second point, which is that I feel like the GameCube, and maybe it's just because when my like gamer brain formed, and like so I had more awareness of the broader video game world during the GameCube era, but I feel like the GameCube has an interesting third-party library that have been orphaned on the GameCube.
Yep.
With the addition that I don't think is as true for like older generations, that the rights are pretty clear.
Sure.
And so maybe possibly some of these like games from third parties could show up on here, and they're ones that they haven't chosen so far anyways to like monetize outside with like remakes or something like that, because I think there are third-party games like that are so important to the GameCube library, like Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, that Square Enix just remade, right? Like,
right.
So I feel like it's less likely that that's going to show up here. But what about something like, and a lot of them are Capcom, but what about something like Beautiful Joe? I don't think those games have been available, since the PlayStation 2. Like,
totally. Right.
GameCube era. Killer 7, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, or like its sequels. The Rogue Leader games. Simpsons Hidden Run.
Rogue Leader, that'd be so cool.
Resident Evil Code Veronica. Oh yeah, Rogue Squadron.
Right.
But like Code Veronica, I don't think has been on anything since.
You can play Code Veronica on like PS4 versions of it that are. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you're totally right about like all the rest of this. It's just like the Resident Evil 1 remake and Resident Evil 0. You can play those elsewhere, but like, yeah, they sure could show up here.
Yeah, and I
have one, and again, I have like overflow, so I'm just gonna roll this into yours. My point was the inevitable M17 Plus GameCube library that we will at some point. Nintendo's going to say, hey, we got to put Geist and Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem on this thing.
Yes.
And so it needs to be a separate like 17 plus mature rating portal for it. And a lot of the types of games that you're talking about fall into this category, right? Like that's where like Enter the Matrix, if they could re-release that. We were just talking about it on Tuesday. That's an M-rated game. What about Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes?
I know. See, that's one where like
What's the deal with Twin Snakes?
Right.
It's a remake of the original Metal Gear Solid, which released on GameCube and then never again.
Yeah, it was released on GameCube, and it was developed by Silicon Knights, so it wasn't developed by Konami.
Right.
It was developed by a Western studio, and specifically for GameCube.
Yes.
And that's what I'm worried is going to doom it, the fact that it wasn't developed by Konami, because, like, why not include it as part of the Metal Gear Solid collections?
Because it has never been included in any of the Metal Gear Solid collections.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
But but to your point, I would love if it comes to Nintendo Switch Online.
Right. And I think, like, that's the kind of thing if Nintendo wanted to be like that's a, hey guys, guess what? Like, that's like GoldenEye is available on the Nintendo 64, right? It's the same level of, like, look at this thing we managed.
Yeah. Oh, I really hope that one happens.
I really hope
that one happens.
Yeah. But seriously, why? Like, it's never been in any collection ever.
Yeah. I think,
And they've done 3 different Metal Gear Solid collections, including the most recent Master Collection, which, like, included the, like, era immediately before and immediately after Twin Snakes coming out. So it's like, okay.
Maybe they were saving it for this.
Maybe they're saving it for this, yes. I wonder, do you know who published that? Did Konami publish it?
I do think Konami published it.
And Konami's not been great about supporting NSO. So, you know, both Konami and Square Enix are, like, not on these things, but Capcom is. So some of the games that you mentioned, I think, stand a real chance of showing up there.
Do you think, like, they would put the Resident Evil games on here? No, right? Because they're going to sell those.
Yeah, I mean, I think
they're already for sale on Switch, right? So I don't think that they would want to cannibalize it.
So I'm not counting that my inevitable. Right. That is just not that doesn't count as one of mine. But the third party library, I think, is an exciting, like, thing to note here. Because they were coming to the GameCube. Okay, so for my second pick, I'm gonna go hyper specific. And I don't know if they'd ever do this, but I hope that they do. Release the version of Ocarina of Time that came with the Wind Waker pre-order. So there was this tiny little disc that when you pre-ordered, I think from GameStop, maybe exclusively, who knows? I
got mine from EB Games.
Yeah, yours from EB.
Because Wind Waker was the first game that I ever pre-ordered.
Amazing. And so it has the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on it, and the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Master Quest. This is the only way to play the like Nintendo 64 version of the Master Quest.
Whoa.
There is a Master Quest available to play as part of the Ocarina of Time 3D remake. But a couple things. One, you have to beat the vanilla game in order to access it. That's thing number one. Thing number two, the whole game is mirrored. So, like, Twilight Princess style, where they just, like, reverse the left and right on it for some reason, just to make it feel a little bit different. And number three, all the enemies deal double damage. So it is a more difficult game because it's, like, messing with your sense of direction from the original, and that the enemies are just physically harder. But the spirit of the Master Quest is just that the dungeons are remixed. So items are in different places, puzzles are solved in different ways, enemy locations are different, all within the dungeons. And I've played through most of the Master Quest back in high school, or well, I guess whenever the disc came out, so I was in college. But I think it was, like, home over the summer, because I remember playing it in my parents' basement. Anyway, and that, like, that is such a singular, exciting experience, and a way to experience Ocarina of Time again in a different context, that, like, boy, wouldn't it be cool if they did that. And we know that they don't have any qualms with re-releasing a game on Nintendo Switch Online, right? There are 3 different ways to play Super Mario Bros. 3 on NSO. So I would just like them to do this as well.
That would be fun. Even if just the Master Quest.
Just the Master Quest,
even if just putting Master Quest out there. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. And I had that disc. I have no idea what became of that disc. Maybe it's still with my parents, but I never played the Master Quest
Yeah.
on that pre-release disc.
I wonder what I did with my disc, too. Wait, is it possible I still have it? Oh my god. It's being confronted with that possibility that maybe I do.
Okay, my next one, I am going into this with boundless hope.
Yes.
Okay. And part of that boundless hope is that one way or another, we will be able to play Four Swords Adventure on this thing someday.
Yeah.
And of course, Four Swords Adventure, when it was released for GameCube, required the use in multiplayer required the use of the Game Boy Advance connector.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So that way every person playing could have like their own view of like the game. And
because you're playing it physically on your Game Boy Advance, right?
Right.
And it's connected to the GameCube, and so everyone is both looking at a screen that is the TV and their like personal screen which follows their little guy around.
Right. So like something that is not too dissimilar to what they would try to do with like the Wii U.
Right.
Years later. But I've never played this game.
Yeah.
And like I had a Game Boy Advance, but I didn't have friends that have Game Boy Advances, and I don't think I had the connector cable.
I know I did.
To like the GameCube. And so this is something that I would just really like to experience. I would like to be able to play Four Swords Adventure.
Yeah, I would love that. Obviously, you and I are fans of the multiplayer co-op Zelda experience. We like Triforce Heroes on the 3DS. So yeah, and especially that this would be playable again online, right?
Right.
Because all of the NSO games are playable online, so that we could do some of that. And using the game chat feature to like also be able to talk to people while you're doing it. I don't know. It seems kind of perfect, Mark.
Yeah, it does seem perfect. Also, I want to correct myself. It's Four Sword Adventures. More than one adventure.
Got it.
Yep.
Four Swords
Adventures.
Okay, so more than one sword, obviously.
Oh, now I got to look that up too.
Yeah, it's got, well, because the Four Sword is like the name of the sword in the game, right?
Four Swords.
Okay.
Adventures.
Okay, got
Both
it.
plural.
Got it.
But only one adventure of Link.
Yes, the Adventure of Link.
Yeah.
Beaumont Kin, and etc. That's great. We should make an effort to play that game together.
Yeah, if it ever.
Sure.
Yeah. It comes on.
Well, yeah. What an excellent point. Okay. My point number 3. Oh, and then we're gonna get to reasons we're not excited already. Look, I know that there's a little bit of like neophilia speaking in from me now, where I'm just like focused on like the next thing, the new thing. I'm excited about new stuff. But Mark, from here, from GameCube, the only place they have left to go is Strange, right? If they continue to add libraries to Nintendo Switch Online, the next stop on the train is somewhere weird. Either the DS, the 3DS, the Wii, the Virtual Boy, or the Wii U. Those are the only libraries that are left now, right? Or Game & Watch if they ever want to make my dreams come true. But to execute on any of these things, so many of them are dual screen experiences. They gotta like work something out. And like I had been hypothesizing for a while that like one of the things for the Switch 2 could be like a second screen that snaps on the top, and you could play DS, 3DS, and Wii U games that way. Just because the system wasn't demoed with that and wasn't shown off initially with it, and we don't have any evidence that those libraries are coming, doesn't mean that they can't be. And the fact that we have reached the GameCube now, we got nowhere to go but weird.
I know, it's true. The GameCube seems like the last logical stop. But Nintendo DS games were available on the Wii U.
Right,
on the Virtual Console.
Yes, and you could play it all like contained either on your TV or on the gamepad, but one of the ways that they like presented to play it was that the bottom screen was the Wii U gamepad and the top screen was the TV. So like they were using a dual screen system to present dual screen games.
But they don't have to.
They don't have
like,
to.
you could play it on your TV with mouse controls, acting as like a touch screen, like how you would manipulate the touch screen. and then or you could play it in handheld mode, just with the touchscreen of the Switch too. Like, I think it's possible.
It definitely is possible.
But you're right. GameCube is the last logical stop where it's like,
right,
from here we're off the rails. You're gonna have to do something different that's not just we're emulating the games and here's like a fun reproduction of the controller for you to buy.
Right. This is the last safe train station before we go into Wacky Land.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you're gonna encounter the dodo. It's gonna be weird, but like, I'm hopeful that we do, right, in some capacity, explore these other libraries, and I can't wait to see what crazy stuff they try to sell us to like do this. It's very exciting to me to be at the end of the rails of normal.
Yeah, because let's say that they decide GameCube library is where we stop. We're not ready to do DS yet. We're not ready to do 3DS. We're not ready to do Wii. Like, this is as far as we want to go. They're going to have to do something to continually, renew interest in Nintendo Switch Online accounts and to keep that, going.
And to keep people engaged. Yeah, because like part of the neophilia that I express is the same thing that everyone else experiences. And if Nintendo Switch Online is not giving you new experiences because they've run out of library, they got to do something else.
Right. And, we've seen them dabble with this, like with Tetris 99 and with the Nintendo Music app. So they have possibilities outside of it.
But I'm excited for that stuff too.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think we will continue to get that in Switch 2. But the caliber of those sorts of things will have to be so much different if they're like, GameCube is what you got for the next 8 or 9 years until the new system.
I was going to ask you, what do you think the release cadence, or will there be no such thing? Just that it starts with these 3 games, right?
Right.
Which are Soul Calibur
2,
F-Zero, and
Wind
Waker. So like, the first 3 offerings, like pretty good, including one third party, right? But like, when do we get the next one?
I really don't know, because now they have all of these libraries to continue to balance. My expectation personally is that the GameCube is going to be a
very
slower
slow,
drip,
right? Yeah,
because they're bigger games. They're like, the experiences are so much bigger of playing a GameCube game. I really think they're going to meter them out very slowly. But kind of what we saw with the previous libraries is that they come out of the gate, even with the Nintendo 64, was like a monthly cadence or so.
Right.
We would get a release, and then they hit a point where it
became irregular.
So regular.
Yeah, but I don't think, like, so obviously these are all launching in June. I don't think we get another one in July.
I don't know. I think it's possible, because one thing they haven't done, or maybe they did. Do you remember? My memory for the Nintendo 64 was they were very explicit, being like, and here are 7 titles or whatever that will be coming later. And they didn't necessarily go in that order.
Right.
And sometimes there were items that weren't on that list that were released. But
we did get a preview.
We did get a similar list for GameCube.
because with like Pokemon Coliseum and
you're right.
like the Fire Emblem game.
So then, yes, I think we could see one in July. I think we could.
You think we could see one in July?
I do think we could.
That's exciting. I mean, if they could, meter out like a new one, even if it's 1 a month for the rest of the year, so it's 8 games by the end of the year, 9 games by the end of the year. That'd be pretty. That would be a very impressive thing to add to this, which makes me think that they won't.
Yeah, that would be a lot.
That's a lot, because they are also going to be, I imagine, adding games to the other libraries.
Right. Yeah, that's my expectation as well.
That was just my third one. Oh yes, that I was saying we have nowhere left to go but weird. And you brought up the idea that maybe beyond this, it's not just libraries.
Right.
I
mean, it'll have to be. It'll have to be something else. Like, even if they do start putting Nintendo DS games on there,
right,
and like 3DS, like, how far can they go? How far are they willing to go?
Right. They got to go back and give me my Game & Watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. The Switch generation, they've knocked out a lot of the easy ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
It becomes much harder from here on out.
Yep. Okay, so now do we present the possible reasons that we are not excited?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, Mark, take it away.
Okay, so the reason I'm not, and this is very, very, very selfish. I just want to make that very clear because I know that there are things that other people care about that are important to other people that are not important to me personally.
Yes.
I know this. I do a Nintendo podcast, right? So,
which is important to everyone.
So I say this with love in my heart, but I never want to hear people debate the merits of analog triggers versus digital triggers ever again. And I feel like that discussion just comes up every time that the GameCube is ever discussed in a room ever. And, Nintendo's releasing a reproduction of the GameCube controller that will have analog triggers. And so just in case listeners aren't familiar, like analog triggers, they are pressure sensitive. So they can do different outputs depending on how much pressure is given on like the triggers. An example is like FLUDD in Super Mario Sunshine. The amount of water that FLUDD shoots out is more variable if you're using analog triggers. Yeah.
And there are analog triggers on like the PlayStation controllers right now, but they have like the added benefit of also being adaptive triggers where they can provide force feedback so that like they can become harder to push after a certain point, which will give you like a sensation of like really like clicking through in a way that the analog controllers on the GameCube really don't. It is funny that like go ahead.
The GameCube controllers, they have like 2 clicks. There's like
sure, but you don't feel like a push back.
You don't feel a pushback. You feel like a hitch.
Yeah,
like a click when you hit that like second part. The other option is digital triggers, and that's like what's on the Switch. Like controllers.
Right, you're pushing the button or you're
it's
not.
Just binary. It's like one or the other. So, anyways, don't want to hear it. Don't care.
I love this. So you do you just not care about the debate because it's like who cares? Like it's not which is better. It's just they're different features.
They're different. No, they're different features, and this is what I mean by it's like purely. This is a me problem. I know it, but it's just like I guess I've been playing with digital controls for digital triggers for so long. Like I played Sunshine and 3D All Stars with digital. Like I'm just like used to it. Like it just doesn't matter to me.
Right.
I'm sure either one is fine. Either one, I'd be fine with either one. It's like frame rate or like any of that stuff where like I just don't really care that much about the details of it.
Right. That at like a high enough level, you're like fine.
Yeah. It's just a tool. It works. It's fine.
Right. Man, Mark, what a great perspective. Been doing the show with you for 8.5 years, and you still surprise me with things. I will now give my reason that I am not excited for GameCube to come to Nintendo Switch Online. Nintendo has done a pretty good job of bringing GameCube games to the Switch already, including some of the like absolute stone cold classics that are like must play GameCube games, like Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, like Pikmin 2, like Metroid Prime. Even Bandai Namco brought Baten Kaitos to as a separate product to sell, and we know from previous examples that like the Super Mario RPG remake knocks out Super Mario RPG as a game that's going to come to the SNES Nintendo Switch Online. Ditto Mario versus Donkey Kong. That it's just like some of this they've just done already, and especially like the big important ones. So that just feels like a little bit of a bummer. Like they've sort of sniped out some of the excitement for their own stuff already.
Yeah, like you raise a good question, which is, do we think that 1,000 Year? Because you mentioned before that the Switch has so many different ways that you can play Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario Brothers 2. Like, do you think that it precludes them from putting 1,000 Year Door on the GameCube library? And I guess it doesn't stop them from doing it, but doesn't make it. It makes it less exciting, I guess, or less special.
Right.
If like Pikmin is on there,
right,
when it's already on Switch. You know what I mean?
I do, and it's just like, but like I guess to answer your question, like I don't think that they'll do, like I don't think Metroid Prime makes it on there because they have a remake to sell at $40. And or a remaster at any rate. And it's like a good remaster and something they should be proud of, right? And that they should be charging $40 for because it's great. But Yeah, I don't know.
How funny with Metroid Prime. That's such a funny example because it's like we could be in for a reality where Metroid Prime Remastered is available. Metroid Prime 2 could theoretically come to this new system, like GameCube, Nintendo Classics, and then 3 is theoretically just orphaned.
Right.
And then 4 would be available.
Right. Or until they get weird and the Wii library comes to.
Yeah.
Or they do like a Metroid Prime 3 remaster, right? Like that's possible too.
It's like cobbling together the complete Metroid Prime collection. But that's the other thing is they've never been concerned about
being completeness.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But like, yes. I mean, you're absolutely right. They have never really been concerned with their very few instances where you can genuinely play an entire franchise on Switch. Even something like Pikmin, where you're like, 1, 2, 3 Deluxe and 4, they're all there. Not Hey Pikmin or whatever it's called. Yo Pikmin.
No, I think it is Hey Pikmin.
Yeah, it's Hey Pikmin.
Yeah.
Hey Pikmin, how's it going? So that's I just. Yeah, I guess Advance Wars was the other example. That Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp means that we don't have those Advance Wars games on. So
totally. So we just did a reason why we're like not excited. I have one reason why I'm sad. Can I share that one reason I'm sad? I'm sad.
Yeah. Is this not part of the list?
It can be.
I mean, I want to look. We're going to burn off all of whatever else we have prepared. So give me a reason you're sad.
Okay, so the reason I'm sad is, I have a lot of hope. I have hope that Four Swords Adventures will come to this library.
When rebellions are built on hope.
But I know in my heart of hearts that there's a series of games that I'm ready to plant the flag and say will never make it to this library.
Oh my god.
And it's anything that used the Donkey Kong bongos.
Okay, so this is one of my like on the off chance that they want to try to sell me DK bongos again and let me play Donkey Konga 2.
I would love that.
Bring over Donkey Konga 3, which never made it outside of Japan.
DK
and Jungle Beat. Yes.
I would genuinely love if they're like, we're for Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack subscribers only.
Yes.
You can spend $150 and we will send you replica DK bongos that have like the microphone and everything. And like you have to push both of the bongos at the same time to connect it to your Switch. You know, to like get the little thing going.
Here's where I go full tinfoil hat.
Okay.
Recently Nintendo revealed new like player icons for Nintendo Switch Online that that are themed to NSO, right? And they're all either controllers or like consoles for existing things that are already that you can actively interact with in Nintendo Switch Online, except for the Super NES mouse on its like crappy little like mouse pad, this rigid plastic gray thing with like little checker pattern on it, which suggests to me we could be, Mark, in a world where they're preparing to sell us at some point the Super NES mouse.
I mean, that would be pretty incredible.
So I'm just saying.
You think it's possible?
I think it's possible that peripheral is out there, and therefore that the DK bongos are out there.
Okay.
I'm prepared to be sad like you.
Okay, yeah. But that's my reason I'm sad. Is just because I don't share that hope. I'm skeptical, and I think just another chance goes by that I won't be able to play Jungle Beat.
And I mean ultimately that's probably okay. Jungle Beat specifically. And honestly, like I love Donkey Konga. I think I would be annoyed by the the cover versions of those songs.
It's fun to look back on, and it would be fun to play for a little bit. But I think we can both unquestionably say we would spend the money if they did offer them.
In a second. Will they let me buy two?
Yeah.
I'll do it. All right. So, Mark, do you have any other points? I guess I only have one more now because...
I have one more reason I'm excited, but I've been talking a lot. So do you want to do yours?
I'll go next. So I largely think of the GameCube and the library, especially first party, as when Nintendo let themselves get weird. Um, the we talk a lot about how the Super NES is really like NES games, but like fully realized, right? They were finally able to do everything that they wanted to in the like 2D sprite-based things in 16-bit and realized just so much. And then the Nintendo 64 is using a lot of those same franchises, a lot of those same gameplay mechanics, and just figuring out how to put them in 3D. And then with the GameCube, they're like, no, we can explore other angles of this, other lenses through which to explore a 3D Zelda. Well, what if you're sailing on the high seas for 90% of the game? Mario gets weird in Sunshine, and like arguably Luigi's Mansion is a weird Mario game, right? Metroid, this is where the Prime series comes from. So it's just like a series of games that are like reinvented, or you mentioned earlier these sort of like kind of dead ends, like with Double Dash. It's an experiment. It's taking a proven formula and twisting it. What we've seen so much on Switch is like the ultimate versions of games. And we've not seen too many Switch 2 games yet, but one that we have and one that we're all going to be playing on day one, or the first day that we have the Switch 2s in our hands, is Mario Kart World, which is a twist on the Mario Kart formula. I feel like the GameCube library coming to Switch 2 is a statement of intent that the games that are going to be coming out on Switch 2 are going to be the same franchises you remember, but they're going to be the weird versions of them. I'm intrigued by this idea that we perfected it last time, and this time we get to go nuts, which is what the GameCube library was all about.
That is fun. Oh boy, do I hope that turns out to be the case.
And even if it doesn't turn out to be the case, I'm excited to play the weird games.
I mean,
on the
Donkey
GameCube
Kong
library.
Bonanza, I feel like also
Pretty
checks
strange.
that box.
Yeah.
So I feel I now want to answer the question that you posed me at the beginning, because I feel like what you were talking of, which is like,
are you excited?
Are you excited? Yeah. And like, why am I excited? Because I am excited, and the reason that I'm excited is to kind of piggyback off of what you were talking about. Is I think you're totally right. I think the Nintendo 64 era was them figuring out 3D, breaking that ground, and trying to understand what they could and couldn't do, and what the boundaries were, and like what the rules were, just like we saw with the NES.
And inventing some of the rules, right?
Yes. And then they had, I guess what I'm saying is I feel like the GameCube occupies a really special and unique spot in the Nintendo library, because you had the Nintendo 64, which has some gems, but generally is very rough. And then you had one brief, short, unsuccessful era where they were doing the Super Nintendo thing, where they were like, like, how far can we push this? What can we do that's different? But they're still in that, for really lack of a better term, like hardcore gamer space.
Totally, yes.
Before they turned to the blue ocean of the Wii and the philosophy of like how we make Nintendo games changes with the Wii, where they're like, mass audience, we want this to be as approachable to people as possible.
Yes.
That wasn't a concern for them during like in the same way during the GameCube era.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's such a like small, short, fragile part of Nintendo history that is largely unavailable,
Totally.
And so, so that's my
games that you could play on the Wii, but like not the Wii U. Like,
and not that they were like reprinting, like yeah. I guess basically, I have hope for Nintendo's unloved GameCube games, making it to this library, like you mentioned, Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem.
Yes.
Geist. Yeah, let's put Geist on here.
Let's play Geist.
Put Doshin the Giant on here.
Should we talk about Geist?
Let's put Odama. Let's put Star Fox Adventures. Let's put The Failures.
Right.
Like let's put Wario World on here. Like, let's put, like these, like you said, like weird evolutionary things that didn't end up going anywhere, but
There's also a fair number of like Japanese exclusive games too. That like Captain Rainbow's out there. There's
I think Captain Rainbow's a Wii game.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. But there's a Kururin game that is just like the Kururin that we got on the Game Boy Advance, where it's just like a rotating ship that you have to guide through different little puzzles. And just so many more. This wasn't my system and therefore wasn't my library, so I can't really speak to the obscure gems. But I know that they're out there.
Yes, totally. And, I am a little bit worried that, so one of the things I love about Nintendo so much is I love that it's very, like, rooted in Japanese culture.
Yeah.
But I think especially as the company has seemingly, like, with marketing and all that kind of stuff, brought it back in-house, brought it back to Japan, that they have a tendency to, like, not pay very much attention to the things that were done outside of it. And that's what makes me worried that, like, a Geist, something that's considered a failure, that's considered was developed by NST,
right.
by that they won't necessarily want to bring that up or pay attention to it or anything. But I hope that they do. I hope that they're willing, that they, especially because they have with, like Paper Mario and the Pikmin games, they have re-released them elsewhere. They're going to have to turn to something.
Right. Yes. So like, again, it's a short window. And it's like tough to make games on this scale, like so they didn't release that many, right? Yeah. So I feel like we gotta get those games, and like we've seen them do this like M-rated like extra app for the Nintendo 64. They got to do that for this too, right?
We should talk about what Geist is for a second.
Go ahead.
So it was a game that was developed, and published by Nintendo, where you are like
so you start off playing like a military shooter kind of guy who's like sent in on like a paranormal mission, and at the end of the first mission you die and become a ghost, and the rest of the game you as this ghost are possessing different people, creatures, and inanimate objects in order to progress through the game. And part of the way that you possess other creatures is you have to scare them first. So like you possess a dog bowl, the dog comes over to it, you like shake around and like the water splashes around, freaks out the dog. Now you can possess the dog. And Miyamoto has influence on this game, and it's like, if you really want to draw a line from Geist to Super Mario Odyssey and the capture mechanic, you can. You are welcome to do it, and it's obvious and true. So yeah, that's what Geist is. But it's an M-rated game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a huge failure.
Yeah.
I have one other thing.
Okay.
I started with wanting to play Double Dash again, and I'll end with I'm excited to play Wind Waker again, because I didn't have a Wii U.
Yes.
And so I didn't have Wind Waker HD. I have not played Wind Waker since the GameCube era. It has not been available on anything other than the Wii U and the GameCube.
Right. And do you feel like we got to put that hope to bed now that either or both of those HD versions are coming out?
Man, that is crazy, but I think you're right. I think that's possible. I think that the GameCube stuff will supersede them releasing those HD versions for now. I imagine someday they will live again, but
forever's a long time. But like, just like we have newer versions of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask in the 3D versions. Those aren't the versions they chose to bring to Switch. You can play the original Nintendo 64 ones there. So like, I think that's just what we're gonna see here.
I would love if they do eventually down the road bring Wii games to like the Switch 2 or something, that on the same day that
yes.
Twilight Princess for Wii
yes.
launches on Switch 2, that Twilight Princess for GameCube also launches on Switch 2.
A perfect decision. No notes on that whatsoever. Two things. One, just a quick observation. So weird that the Switch 2 is launching with like new versions of 3 old Zelda games. Isn't that wild?
That is wild.
So A, that. B, we've not mentioned Super Smash Brothers at all. And the original Super Smash Brothers released on Nintendo 64 has not been on Nintendo Switch Online. Do you think there's a world where they release Melee on the GameCube version of this?
Yeah, I'll say yes, but I am skeptical.
Okay. Why is that?
Because of the fact that they haven't put Smash 64 on the system.
Right. I wonder what the holdup is there.
And do they is it the online part of it, I wonder?
So maybe it's the online part of it. I wonder if there's like they just want to keep the appetite for Ultimate out there. And if there are, especially with Melee, right? That I think there are people who like Super Smash Bros. Melee, but play Ultimate because that's the one that's available to play.
I think that's true, but I feel like I would just guess that the number of people that play the Nintendo classics, like really play them, is low.
Yeah.
And that it's mostly like hardcore Nintendo fans that spend very much time at all, in most of those libraries. And
here's the thing, I think kids too.
Really?
Yes. So Sarah's nieces spend a lot of time in the NES and Super NES and Game Boy libraries because it's just a bunch of games that are free to them, basically.
Sure, yeah.
And like it's such an easy thing for a parent to do, to be like, I'm going to throw $50 at this once, and for the next year, you have access to all of these games that, by the way, I grew up playing and can like talk to you about. So I think I think kids are probably playing them too.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally fair. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think like an earlier version of like Mario Kart, for example, being on Nintendo Switch Online is going to stop anybody or most people from getting the new one. And so I don't think that trying to protect sales of the new entry is a reason that they would not put an old game on there.
Also, they've sold 1 billion copies of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So
it would be really interesting if Melee got on there. It would now have online theoretically, but what does that look like for a fighting game? It feels like that sort of online would
a little
be
bit rougher,
very different than like the implementation of it would need to be more precise. I don't know what I'm saying.
But I mean, maybe that sort of has to be true for like F-Zero GX as well, right? GT. What is it?
Oh, we will never know.
I'm not looking it up. I would rather people email us about the Jingle Bells Batman Smells than about the actual name of this game. But so like I feel like they have to be targeting a little bit more precision on that anyway. But who knows? If Melee comes to the GameCube library here, I'm so gonna play through that Subspace Emissary.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And also they better release a what are they called? The plus versions? No, what was it called when they release like a version of the classics games that have like more stuff online? SP. They better do a Super Smash Bros. Melee SP.
They've kind of stopped doing that.
They have.
Yeah.
And that's a crime. Like they have like there's a Super Mario Kart that has like everything unlocked. And that like that should be pretty standard, right?
Yeah, give us an SP version of Jet Force Gemini where like,
you don't have to play the game.
Where you don't have to play the game.
Just rolls the credits. So rude to that game, but we did not enjoy it. Check out NCS Arcade for more information. Literally the second game we played for that series. Unreal. All right, Mark. Those are our thoughts about what to be excited and what to not be excited about, or what we are excited and not excited about for the GameCube coming to NSO. Mark, let's close this out. That is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. I'm sure there are corners of this library that we missed. So if you, listener, are excited for anything happening in terms of GameCube on NSO, email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Interesting. What was that going to be?
I want to say Switch 2. I was about to say
Switch2.com.
Yeah.
Cool. You should do that. You should get in our Discord and chat about it. I imagine people are going to be sharing their thoughts on GameCube there. Thank you so much to our 16-bit patrons, Connor McKay, Patrice Millette, Kyle Seaborn, Drew Mackey, Steve-O, and James Haig. We appreciate all of you so much. We appreciate everyone who is listening or interacting with us in any way. Join the Discord. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying it's weird that neither of us mentioned Star Fox. You're right. There are 2 of them on there.
I did. I mentioned Star Fox Adventures.
You did mention Star
yeah,
Fox
as
Adventures?
one of like the weird.
Sure.
Like,
what about
failures.
Assault, though?
Yeah. Not
Okay,
on my mind.
Okay. So it was my fault, not yours. I gotta turn the volume back up here.